single day.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be sharing with you how to make a corset. As you can see, my pattern is on fold. Now I will begin with placing my shoulder to shoulder measurement, which is 7.5. Shoulder to shoulder divided by 2, which is 7.5, and I will add ½ inch to that. Now I would come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant. Now from the folded edge of my pattern, I will take 3 inches and connect it to the 1 inch for my shoulder slant. Now next thing I'll do is to take my neckline. I'll take 4 inches for the width of the neckline and 3 inches for the length of the neckline. I am just doing this for the beginners so you all can understand the process on how to make your corset. Now I'll take my armhole depth, which is 8.5 inches. I would extend my lines, and this is going to be my bust line. Now next thing I will do is to start placing my shoulder to bust point, which is 11.5, shoulder to under bust, which is 14.5, and my waist, which is 17, and my length, which is 25, and hemming allowance. Now I will just extend my lines. Now I will start taking my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. My nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches divided by 2 is 4 inches, and I will start placing that mark all the way down to my length, and I would connect the lines. Now I would find the midpoint of my shoulder from my armhole line to my neckline. That is where you're finding the midpoint. Now I will find the midpoint and I would connect it to my nipple to nipple line. Now come down to your underbust and start placing your dart measurements. Now I will be taking 1 inch on my underbust and 1 inch on my waist on each side for my dart. Then I'll go upwards by 2 inches from my length and connect my dart lines. Now next thing I'll do is from my bust point, I would go upwards by 1 inch and I would connect my dart lines. Now I will just go ahead and label this pattern to avoid confusions. This is my bust line, this is my bust point, this is my underbust, this is my waistline, and this is my length. Now measure the distance from your bust point to your underbust. Mine is about 3¼ inch. Now from my bust point, I will place my tape rule upwards and I will take 3.5 instead of 3¼ inch. Whatever your measurement is, just add ½ inch to that. Now I will take ½ inch dart on each side of that measurement and I will connect my dart lines. Now I will take my bust circumference divided by 4. Now this 1 inch that I placed here, I'll place that 1 inch right there on my pattern. Now making a bustier, you do not need any seam allowance because it needs to be tight, but for beginners, add 1 inch for seam allowance. Now on my underbust, I will take my underbust circumference divided by 4. Now I would add my 2 inches for that and 1 inch for seam allowance. Now my waist circumference divided by 4, 2 inches for that allowance and 1 inch for seam allowance. Now at the length, I will take my hip circumference divided by 4 and I would also add 1 inch for seam allowance. Now next thing I will do is to connect all my lines. Now from your bust point, take 1 inch downwards. Now take ½ inch on the inside from this line, ½ inch. Now connect your line to here. This is going to be your neckline curve, more like a sweetheart neckline. Now from here, take 1/2 inch downwards, and we're going to be connecting it to this line, and this is going to be our armhole. Now from this part, the bust line, you take 1¼ inch upwards. This is 1¼ inch. Behind your tape rule is 4 centimeter. Now instead of using 1¼ inch, in order not to confuse you all, I will use 4 centimeter. Now take that 4 centimeter slant upwards. Now connect your curve from this point. Now start connecting your curve to meet your sweetheart curve. Now we're going to take this bust line down here at the bust point in order for us to take our next measurement. Now take the circumference of your bust divided by 4 and place it right there at the bust point line. Now these are our bust measurements. We brought it down to our bust point line. Now take that same 4 centimeter inwards from that bust point line. Now we're going to roll this down to the under bust. Now next thing we will do is we're going to take that same 4 centimeter slanted upwards, just like we did for the other side. Now slant your 4 centimeter upwards. Now I'll just go in and label that 4 centimeter so you don't get confused. I'll label each point I used the 4 centimeter. Now you can use this for every pattern and size. It doesn't select, it's a standard measurement. Now I will just go in and connect my curve. And once you're done, your pattern should look like this. Now to get that corset look, find the midpoint from your waistline to your hip line. Now this is totally optional. You can use your pattern length as it is. Now I am just going to show you how to create a corset look at the bottom part of your bodice. Now just connect that midpoint line all the way like this, and that is that. Now using my green marker, I will go in and highlight everywhere that I will be cutting off. Now as you can see, I am done highlighting, and everywhere with the green marker is going to be cut off. Oftentimes you see corsets in 2-piece like this, 1 and 2. Now you can use this 2-piece like this as it is and cut it out, and that will serve as your corset. It's ready. Now if you want to add a cap to it, I'm going to show you how to add a cap to it. Now from your bust point line, go upwards by 1/2 inch. On this other part, also go upwards by 1/2 inch. Now just connect your line using your ruler to this point. Now I will just go in with my green marker and also highlight this because it is going to be cut off. So now I will just go on and cut my pattern out. Cut out the dot lines first. Now start cutting out the cup. Now with just this piece and this other piece, you already have a corset, obviously. The bigger one stays at the armhole part, while the smaller one stays at the neckline part. Now you can go on and label your pattern. I will just label mine upper left, down left, upper right, and down right. You can label yours with anything you can remember. Now we can go on and cut out this line. That is the cap line. Now I will tape this together using my sellotape. Now to start the back pattern, start taking your zipper seam allowance. You can use a rope for the back. You can use whatever rocks your fancy. Now I will take 1.5 inch for my zipper seam allowance, and I'll connect the line all the way down, as you can see. Now I will start taking my shoulder to shoulder measurement divided by 2, just like we did for the front pattern. Now I will take my shoulder to waist, which is 17 inches. And next thing I will do is to take my shoulder to length, which is 25, and also add hemming allowance. Now I will just extend all my lines. Now I will start taking my nipple to nipple measurement, just like we did for the front. My nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches divided by 2 is 4 inches, and that is what I will mark all the way down and connect all my lines. Now I will take 2 inches from my hip line upwards. Now I will take 1/2 inch on each side of my waist, and I'll come down by 1 inch from my bust line, and I would connect my dart lines. Now I will take my bust circumference divided by 4 and 1 inch for seam allowance. Now down on my waist, I will take my waist circumference divided by 4, and I would add 1 inch for that and 1 inch for seam allowance. On my hip line, I will take my hip circumference divided by 4 and 1 inch for seam allowance, and next thing I will do is connect all my lines. Now this reminds you of making Bustier pattern. It's very much the same. At this bottom part, take 5 inches in and come down by 1 inch and connect your bottom slants. Now you can use your body's length if you want to. Now remember I said this is optional. Just take the midpoint of your hip to your waist and just connect the cuff if you want a corset shape. Now from this point you're going to come down by 1 inch, and next thing we will do is to connect the line like this. Now cut out all your dart lines. Now I would open up my center back because I placed zipper allowance to it. Now I have my back pattern. Now I'll be using one of each of these two because they are all the same. Now I will start cutting out the zipper part of my fabric, and I would add 1/2 inch seam allowance all around it, 1/2 inch for hemming, 1/2 inch at the top for turning with the lining, that is if you're using a lining to turn it, and 1/2 inch at this side for my dart allowance. And you need no seam allowance at the zipper part because you already have your zipper allowance right there. Now I'll just open up the center back, and here I have 2 pieces. Now I will start cutting the sides of the back. As you can see, my fabric is folded. This way I am cutting out 2 pieces. I added 1/2 inch at the dart sides, 1/2 inch at the bottom for turning with lining, and 1/2 inch at the bottom for hemming. And I add no 1/2 inch at the side because I already have my seam allowance placed there. Now once you're done cutting out all your back pattern, place the good sides together, the good sides of your zipper part and the side, and join by 1/2 inch. Now place the good sides of the other side and also join by 1/2 inch. Now I have already placed my fabric on fold to cut the front pattern out of my fabric, and I am going to go on and add 1/2 inch seam allowance all around it except for the side seam part. I would add no seam allowance here because this is my side. I already have my side seam allowance. I would add ½ inch at the top right there and ½ inch at the bottom right here for hemming. Now I would also add ½ inch right here for that allowance and also ½ inch right here to join with my cup. Now I will proceed with cutting out the center front. Now to cut this, I will fold this and place it on my folded fabric. And next thing I will do is to start cutting out. I will add ½ inch at the top right there and ½ inch right here to join with the cup, and also ½ inch right here for that allowance. And also remember to add your hemming allowance. Now I will place this fabric on fold and I will place my pattern, my cup patterns on it, and I would pin them to my fabric. Now I will start cutting this out on my fabric, and make sure you add ½ inch all around it as you cut. As you can see, I am adding ½ inch all around it as I cut. As you can see, I am done cutting and I have ½ inch all around my pattern. And now next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this line on my pattern, and I'm going to make notches at each sides of the pattern. This will help you not to be confused and also help you identify your fabric more. Now I am labeling my fabrics, the smaller ones as X and the bigger ones as O. Now I'll go on and join the good sides of the fronts together and join by ½ inch, and also the other side and join by ½ inch. Now as you can see, I have ironed my interfacing on my fabric. What I am using is soft wadding. Now the notched parts would be staying at the top, would be facing the top, and also this is my notched part for X. It will be facing the top, and this is also the notched part for this. It would also be facing the top. Now as you can see, the O's are at the outer parts and the X are on the inner parts. The O's are the bigger ones, which is the armhole parts, and the X are the smaller parts, which are on the insides. And as you can see, the curved parts are facing downwards. If you don't make your notches on your fabric, you won't be able to identify your fabrics. Now join the sides together like this. Join them together like this and sew by ½ inch. Now once you're done, you should have this. Now you're going to place this curved part like this and place the cap on top of it like this, and you're going to stitch by ½ inch and do the same for this. Place the cap on top of it and stitch by ½ inch, thereby joining the cap to it. As you can see, I am done doing that and I have a perfect bra cup. Now next thing you need to do is to join the front to the cup, the front fabric to the cup. Now make sure the seams are matching. Now place the seams like this and you're going to stitch by ½ inch all the way to the top. And you're also going to stitch the side all the way to the top. And now you're going to also do the same. Make sure the seams match. And as you can see, I am done doing that. And as you can see, the seams are matching perfectly well. And everything is neat as it can be. Now for this tutorial, I am not going to be turning it out with a lining. I'm going to do that in another tutorial. Now I am going to place the good sides of the front and the back and join the sides and also add my zip. And when I am done doing that, this is what it looks like. Perfect and precise. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe and like.